5 men involved in the Gloucester riots in August have been jailed for a total of 13 years. The disturbances, which centred around streets in Barton and Tredworth, lasted for several hours.
Jailing them, the judge said they had brought shame onto the city, so that people associated Gloucester with mob violence rather than a fine cathedral and docks. Steve Nibbs reports.
The riots in Gloucester surprised and upset many. It wasn't a riot motivated by issues. It was, the judge said today, driven by a criminal desire amongst some to simply cause trouble. The court was told the ringleader was Gareth Rees. He sent messages on his BlackBerry saying, "Who wants a riot in Gloucester?" and "You want to get yourself in a gang? It's going on in town now." Rees pleaded guilty to violent disorder. He was caught throwing stones, bottles and a beer keg at police in Barton Street and later attacked a pub nearby. Also caught on camera that night by the police helicopter was the looting of the King convenience store in Tredworth. Thomas Townsley stole the till. He was jailed for 39 months. Shane Butler got 15 months after being filmed walking out with an armful of bottles. At the time, the Chief Constable cut short his holiday to visit people affected by the riots. Tonight, he told us the jail term sent a clear message to those intent on causing trouble.
If you come into Gloucester and you behave inappropriately, you commit crime, then you're very likely to be caught, put before the court, and you can expect to receive a very stiff sentence.
Also in court today was 19-year-old Michael Devoy. He was sent to a young offenders institution for 3 years for his part in the riots. And also Michael Smith, jailed for 10 months. He'd worked in the NHS until he got caught up in the riots. He handed himself into police after seeing his wanted picture in a local newspaper. The court was told the actions of all 5 men and those yet to face the courts had stretched police that night. The judge said the sentences would act as a deterrent for anyone tempted to behave in this way in the future, saying that the riots undermined the very fabric of society. Steve Nibbs, BBC Points West.
Well, we're joined now by our Home Affairs correspondent, Steve Brodie. Steve, how do these sentences compare to others that have been handed out across the country?
Well, indeed, Alex, there's been a whole variety of sentences across the country. In August, 2 men were given 4 years each for inciting a riot on Facebook. And last month, another man in Cardiff was also given 4 years for exactly the same offence. In another case, a man was given 18 months for having a stolen TV in the back of his car. Now, at the time, the chairman of the Bar Association, a top lawyer, he said that these sentences were too long and too harsh. But on the other hand, Community Secretary Eric Pickles said these were just the job. He said this would show rioters what they could expect. And recently, 2 brothers in Bristol were given 7 years between them for their part in the earlier Stokes Croft disturbances. And I have to say, watching the offences coming before Bristol magistrates, what struck me was the fact that the vast majority were being remanded in custody, when under normal circumstances they would have been allowed out on bail. Another factor, Alex, is the fact that lack of consistency. An 18-year-old was given 1 day for stealing 2 T-shirts. Another man was given 18 months for having a bottle of water, stealing a bottle of water worth £3.50. I mean, clearly, we're all over the place on it. But the final thing is that there's no doubt that the judiciary, with or without the prompting of the government, is going down the hard line of deterrent sentences.
It's an interesting overview. Thanks very much, Steve.